It is 3 o'clock by one of the clocks. Today is September 17th at 3 p.m. and we're in the Tom Baker meeting room for the Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Annie, please call a roll.
Commissioner Zenker.
Here.
Commissioner Swanson.
Here.
Commissioner Hall.
Here.
Commissioner Sackerson.
Here.
Commissioner Nodland.
Here.
Commissioner Persley.
Here.
And Chair Engel.
Here. Thank you. Commissioner Nodland, you might have to share your microphone with Commissioner Sackerson. We're one down with everybody here. So thank you all. The first item is the public comment period. If anyone in the audience, either electronically or here physically, wants to come forward, we can give them the opportunity right now. Do we have anybody? No? Okay. So nobody else here, so we'll move on to item 2, review of the minutes of last meeting.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Zenker.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Sackerson. Okay, Annie?
Commissioner Persley.
Yes.
Commissioner Hall.
Yes.
Commissioner Swanson.
Yes.
Commissioner Nodland.
Yes.
Commissioner Zenker.
Yes.
Commissioner Sackerson.
Yes.
Chair Engel.
Yes. All right, thank you for that, and I'm sorry I missed that last meeting. It looks like you guys were really busy. Moving on to the regular agenda, we'll get an update on the 2024 Historic Preservation Fund grant.
Thank you, Chair Engel and Commissioners. So the item for this agenda item, it's just related to an update for the Local History Education Resources Project under this 2024 HPF grant. An update on this project was last provided in February at your regular meeting. As a reminder, the overarching topic of the kits is the Great Depression in Bismarck, so your 1930s to pre-World War II. There are 2 kits being created, one for K through 5 grades as well as one for 6 through 12. Some of the proposed activities may be similar between the 2 kits, and there might be some activities included in there that might be slightly different just based on the difficulty between the 2 grade points. Each kit will include a table of contents, list of objects and photos, activity guides with associated worksheets and objects, a teacher guide and bibliography, and a list of additional resources. A copy of one of the draft activity pages, just so you can see how that would be laid out, is included within the packet for your reference. Each activity will have one of these, and they'll include the North Dakota Learning Standards, both for history as well as other subjects. And that would be to help teachers determine which activity may be beneficial to include within their lesson plans if they'd like to utilize the resource. Our subcommittee consists of members of this commission as well as representatives from the Bismarck Historical Society as well as a teacher from Bismarck Public Schools. Those representatives from the Bismarck Historical Society also have backgrounds in teaching, which is beneficial for helping with those standards. No action is required at this time for the project as subcommittee work is still ongoing. However, if there's any comments or suggestions related to the project that you have, be very appreciated at this time.
Thanks, Lauren. Do the commissioners have any comments or thoughts? Not this time? Thank you. Moving on, we'll go to the 2025 Historic Preservation Fund grant update.
Thank you again, Chair Engel and Commissioners. So I'll go through kind of the 2 different portions of this grant. There's 2 separate projects that are identified, and I'll just provide the different recommendations for both of those before I would ask for any of those recommendations to be met. So the City of Bismarck was awarded $34,790 in funding from the 2025 Historic Preservation Fund grant, and that's to perform the downtown district survey as well as finalizing the historic preservation plan. Copies of each project's description that was submitted with that application for the grant are included in the agenda for your reference. A minimum match of $23,193 in donated labor is required for this grant. It can be donated labor, which we typically do, which is why it's noted as such. Several items will require review by commissioners outside of the regular monthly meetings here. Just as a reminder for any of you, if possible, if you are reviewing outside of this commission, if you would keep track of your review time, it can be used for that donated labor match. I'll provide a brief on the downtown district survey right now. The goal of the downtown district survey is to review and update properties within the current boundary of the downtown historic district, as well as to conduct a survey of properties surrounding that boundary, including those south of the railroad tracks. City staff anticipates setting up a meeting with staff from the State Historic Preservation Office to discuss their thoughts on the RFP and what the project as a whole would include, including the timeline for the project. A tentative timeline for the project is identified in the agenda. To stay on track, staff plan to include a draft RFP in for the next meeting in October for the Historic Preservation Commission's review. Staff would recommend for that project for the downtown district survey that the Historic Preservation Commission determine which commissioners would like to help with drafting the RFP. If possible, staff would suggest that no more than 2 Historic Preservation Commissioners assist with that drafting. Moving on to the Historic Preservation Plan. At the last meeting, the Historic Preservation Commission requested an update on the progress of the Historic Preservation Plan. As a reminder, the subcommittee was created in 2024, or the most recent subcommittee was created in 2024 to finalize work previously conducted on that plan. Recent work on the draft plan has included the creation of an implementation table for the goals and objectives, the inclusion of the threats to historic resources section, and additional editing of various portions of the plan. The version of the draft plan included in the agenda packet only includes the text for that document as well as the implementation table. Additional photos, graphics, other tables, etc., will be added later when staff work begins on the digital copy of the plan as noted in the project description for the grant. A tentative timeline for that project is included in the agenda packet, and work will begin on the digital copy at the next scheduled subcommittee meeting on October 9th. Staff recommends that the Historic Preservation Commission provide comments or suggestions on the plan or the project timeline.
Thank you, Lauren. So first, let's think about the Downtown Historic District update and RFP creation. Does anybody want to volunteer? Okay, Beth, thank you. Commissioner Nunn?
I have a question.
Oh.
Two probably easy questions for Lauren. So in the second paragraph, when it mentions 74 parcels for the survey, and then site forms are 77 or something, so is this, I think later it breaks that down as well, so there will be 151 properties addressed, is that correct?
Yep.
Chair, Commissioners, not Commissioner Nodland, Commissioners. So the 151 is based on the current parcel data. It was tentatively proposed as such. However, based on discussions perhaps with the state going into that RFP, it may be adjusted just based on costs and everything for anyone who would be interested in doing the survey.
Okay. And then in the budget table, I was just trying to figure out what we would be asking a consultant to do. And so it looks like it's addressing at least 151 parcels, some at a little more expensive rate. But in the budget, in the match amount, you say HPC site forms. is there any expectation that the HPC is going to be preparing site forms, or is that just review?
That's a great question, Commissioner Nodlin, Chair Commissioners. So that match there is basically for review. There should be further down below the table, it kind of explains a little bit more that donated labor component, where that match would be coming in from. As you're well aware of, that's just an estimate for this. It may be different depending on how many commissioners are fully reviewing all the proposed site forms.
Okay, and I guess my question is, in the budget, in the box, the first one has site form updates, and then the third one that's a match says site forms. And I just want to make sure that the consultant is doing both site forms and updates, and the HPC is just doing review.
That would be correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure. I guess my other question is if we are going to ask the consultant to do any meetings, whether here or public meetings or anything. This is a class 3, so there usually wouldn't be one. But is there any need for us to, because it's coming through us, to request that they attend meetings?
That's a great question, Commissioner Nodlin, Chair Commissioners. So how we're currently doing our reconnaissance survey is that the consultant may show up to some of the meetings if requested, but it would be based on their scope of work that's laid out in their contract as well as the RFP that would be provided.
Is that something, because you know how we had South Fork here presenting to us, that was really helpful. So we'll hope that they'll come to our meetings,
Yeah.
right?
And that meeting was in her.
Voluntary, yeah.
No, it was in her contract.
Oh, it was in
that
her
she would
contract. Okay.
Come and present and discuss with us
Okay.
her findings. So.
Okay, so I think we should add that to, I don't know if it's
The
considered a
RFP.
product, but in the,
For sure. And I would think that this RFP, as we construct it, could kind of match what we had
Yeah.
created already for the
Yeah.
South Capital area to save time and energy. So
yeah. And
make sure that's in there.
I'm willing to work on this RFP if
Okay, thank
others
you.
don't want to.
Are there any other volunteers? I'd like at least 2 people because that's kind of more eyes are better.
I probably shouldn't be anyone who's planning to bid on it or that has a conflict of interest.
And I am probably going to recuse myself because I'm not really sure.
I got no idea.
Okay. Okay, well, Beth, I'll take first crack at it and we'll get you some support later on. How's that?
Well, yeah, especially if it's going to use the same template that we already have, it's not that hard. But
Right.
I just
This is reviewing what gets turned in.
preparing the RFP that will go out. But there's several at this table who will likely be bidding on that. Perhaps
That limits
Three.
the pool here.
I won't be bidding. If there's anything I can do to help, and
Okay.
everybody else is, then, hey, I'm the guy, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Pursley, for stepping up. All right.
Let's have somebody clean on the board.
Well, we are experts in our. Okay, so then moving on to the historic preservation plan. Oh, sorry.
I did have one question. I'll be for Lauren, who what the decision was on where to draw the line for the expanded survey area. Because I know there's at least one parking garage in there. I'm like, well, if that's just to cover that area, or I know nothing valuable is going to come out of that survey area.
Well, it would actually depend on the age of
That
some of
parking
those
garage.
parking ramps.
I'm pretty sure
Including
the
the-
parking garage near the War Memorial is pretty young.
Oh, I think there's one that probably,
Yeah.
But that's
70
what we're going to pay the
the white
contractor to
ones.
find
Okay,
out.
75.
that's true. I wasn't sure if it's just to verify that or not.
75.
I'm
right?
sure it's not a site right now,
Yeah.
so, but it's
Is that parking garage
definitely
75?
50 years.
Maybe.
It
sure.
looks like it's 2010s.
Oh, no.
Oh, gosh,
No,
no.
it
I guess
was
they
here-
keep it clean.
It was here when I moved here.
Okay.
so, you know. Yeah.
You're dating yourself.
No, not that one, not that one. The one that's stylized to look like the library that used to be
Oh,
there.
no, that,
That's the
No,
one
no,
I'm
no,
talking
no,
about.
no, no.
No, the other one's eligible. That one needs to be listed. Okay, sorry.
Any other questions?
So we digress.
Lauren, do you have something?
Commissioner Hall, Chair Commissioners, there wasn't any specific, like, this needs to be looked at kind of decision-making when that boundary was done, but it also, we didn't want a Swiss hole kind of boundary going on for the survey. It made more sense, even though we're aware that there could potentially be ineligible properties within that boundary, it would make sense to do a wider boundary for that area.
All right.
Commissioner
Thanks.
Engel, when we talked earlier about expanding the look-see south of the tracks, it's because when you actually look through the Polks and through the Sanborn maps, and you see how much of Bismarck actually was south of those tracks, a good bit of it's gone, but not all of it. And so it's tied in time, of course, to the development of downtown. So if downtown had a spot, but it was the whole development, it was it was along the railroad tracks. It was places, the lumber yards and all the things that offloaded off the rail lines. So this expansion to look south of the tracks, one would hope would catch some of that history, which we have really completely neglected to fold into any of the narrative of the development of downtown Bismarck. So that's why we were looking at expanding it down that way, if that helps justify that.
Any other questions before we move on? Okay, that's okay. The historic preservation plan is next for the priority 3 that we had identified. Anybody want to throw out comments, questions, now that you've got the text in front of you at least? Yes, Commissioner
I don't
Notley.
have to always go first.
Yes, you do.
I have a few comments.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one on page 33, where it talks about the plan development summary. It gives kind of the history, 2020, 2023, 2024. And I am wondering if there's a way to incorporate into those something about the ongoing nature of it, like that in the, have we continued to work with the National Alliance for Historic Preservation Commission Conference or other groups, trade groups that we've helped with? Is there a way to indicate if you guys have continued to go to conferences and get lots of help? And then on the next one for our historic context development, is there a way to say that website is still available on our webpage? And with a link if possible, but if that's not going to change. And then if there's anything like that that sort of shows the ongoing nature of these developmental tasks. So I just think it's a really interesting summary of the development.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Nodlin. To answer those questions, we're going to have a ton of links throughout the web version of this document. Lots of pictures, lots of whatever we can add in to keep it exciting and new instead of just a Word document. And then the ongoing nature, I think, it should be evident. We'll call it out in those areas, but it should be evident from our timeframes of what we're doing, our goals and objectives, that those are a continuous sort of thing that we're going to be hitting. Some of them are, one and dones, but mostly it's going to be every few years, or when we hit that mark, we'll move on to the next one, like the brochures for the districts. We'll refresh those periodically, so they're not stagnant goals.
Okay,
Does
then
that
I
answer?
have my other one.
Sure.
Is the table, I think you called it the implementation table. So I thought this is what I had asked about last meeting. This is what's really interesting to me, these goals. And One of my questions that I have for us, this is what I had said, that I'd hope maybe it's time to do a strategic meeting, or we had a special meeting originally. And so I think this table comes out of something many, many years ago. The way this is written, it feels like a design plan, and I think it's fabulous. But my question is on this table, that the tasks that is somehow, somewhere along the line, and I can't remember when or how, we prioritized them in like 1 to 5. And then, so we have 6 goals, and 5 of them we have high priority goals, and we're not really working on any of those high priority goals. We're working on more like in the mid-level 3 goals. And so I just thought that was really interesting, that like one of our top high priorities that we as a HPC, whenever this table was put together, was to encourage people to do basic documentation of their properties prior to disaster, to kind of do some risk assessment and disaster planning. We haven't talked about that, or we haven't come up with a strategic implementation goal for that. Another one was to create a local landmark designation program. That's another one that at some point, this body, some group of this body said that's our highest number 5 priority. Another one was a historic preservation fair. So I think, for me, it's like as every meeting when somebody comes with a really great idea of something to do, it's like, but we have these number 5 priorities, and does it fit? And I think we could figure out ways like, one of our number 5 priorities was to celebrate Historic Preservation Month in May, and another one, there's only 5 of them that are high priorities, was to have a historic preservation fair, and the other one is to celebrate Historic Preservation Month in May. So maybe we do a historic preservation fair in May, and that way we kind of take 2 of our highest priorities that we've established for ourselves. And I mean, I just trying to figure out how to fit things like the 250th celebration into our high priorities, or revisit this list with this body, this new body, and say, before we print this, and say, are these still our high number 5 priorities? Because it seems like a lot of the number 1s and to 3s are what we're really doing, which is cool, we're getting a lot done. But I just feel like if we're going to print this table with our HPC's number 5 high priorities to meet our goals, it should reflect what we want to do. And so
Yeah.
that I think this table, I think it's fabulous, and the plan looks great. And I just, mine is like, my question is, do we as a group revisit this list before it's printed?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because the number 1, this whole plan is supposed to be a guiding document, what we want to be doing, not necessarily what we are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hopefully pointing in the right direction. As far as the priority listings, that was largely the subcommittee saying, this is what we think. John was there, Lauren, me, the outside members. These are where we wanted to focus our efforts next. And I'm glad you brought that up, that these, like the 250th celebration is kind of a one-off, and these anniversary things sneak up on us. But the more we can tie it in, saying, hey, we have this objective, this is the event, or potential funding opportunity, how do we blend those 2 things together? I think that's great. As long as this is our touchstone, saying this is what we care about as a committee, it's going to help the community understand when we do put funds towards something or put efforts into something, that they understand that this is why. And if they have questions or they think that we should prioritize something differently, great, bring it up. I would love to hear that. Yeah, all the audience here. And as far as the priorities, if you guys have different priorities as a commission, like this was just a baseline. This is what we thought. That's why we're bringing it to you. So if you have any other thoughts on what should be prioritized or not, I would love to hear them.
Chair Engel, my question is, some of these, there's only a few of them that have the 5 priority. Some of them, though, have a timeline of 5 to 10 years down the road. And if we're putting our efforts on number 5 to 10 years down the road, 1, 2, and 3 are gonna be overlooked while we're focusing on something that's not due for 5 years yet. And it's like, is that how to go about this? Is it still to say, let's focus on 5, or somebody on the committee, or some of us still need to be concentrating on 1, 2, or 3 that also will have some kind of impact, may not be as important.
For sure.
But they come due sooner than the 5 years.
Thank you, Commissioner Persley. I would say that for a lot of these, that if they're longer-term goals, that it's gonna take 5 to 10 years to get us there, we have to consistently be working on that, kind of like the plan itself, while we were doing these other activities, and we have subcommittees for a reason, so that other things are getting done. So I do like that call out, that there are long-term priorities that are high probability, or high priorities as well. And I think if we as a commission outline what's possible in any given year, knowing what other events we're wanting to plan around, we can take it chunk by chunk and at least get it in the minutes if we don't do something or want to push something off, so that people have that record. But yeah, that's a great point. So, anybody else? Commissioner Sackerson? No?
I was just in my own mind thinking, well, if each of the sitting members of this board says, you know, I'm going to keep an eye on priority 1s. I'm going to keep an eye on priority 2s, so that when we come to the meeting, somebody's actually, and we make some decisions, somebody's actually thinking, well, okay, I'm 1. Does this fit? Does this help any of the things in the one categories of the things on the list? Number 3 says, well, this fits in 3 of the things I'm looking at. It would be maybe a helpful sort of splintering of attention to perhaps make it easier for a board such as this to kind of keep this actually part of the monthly thing. Somebody's actually looked at what we're going after, what's before us, what we're looking at, and seeing if it ticks any of the 1 boxes that he's looking at.
That's a great
Is that
point.
kind of I mean,
That makes sense. We also factored in how much money and how much budget we might have for any given year, knowing the purse strings are getting tighter. That some of these low-hanging fruit may be the only thing we can get done with the money available to us. So that might have stuff to do too. Any other thoughts?
Chair Engel.
Sure.
So I wonder that, like, I appreciate the work that the subcommittee did, and now that it's in front of us, I guess what I'm wondering is if there's a way for us as a group to look at the recommendations and say, you know, this idea of looking at, like, these are the things that are in the 0 to 2 years or 0 to 3 years, here's the things, and then here's the, you know, to kind of look at what's been brought and created for us and make sure that we understand it, and that if anybody, I mean, if I remember when we did the brainstorming sessions to come up with our plans, it was, we did a couple of hours with just the HPC commissioners to kind of get people's, like, who's willing to be the 1, who's willing to represent 2 and 3s, and, you know, so that now that the subcommittee's done its work, is like, bring it to us, and how do we figure out, like, here's the things that look like a 0 to 3 year, here's the things that are a 2 to 4 year, here's the things that are 5 to 10, and sort of see what, because if nobody wants, this is, I think, what we came up with last time, is if nobody wants to do something, it was like, well, should it really be on our list? It went away. If nobody was willing to volunteer to rep that, it dropped off. And so, I guess now that it's to us, I feel like we should address this list.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Nolan. That sounds great. These objectives and goals were compiled from between the surveys, from public comments, from best practices of other commissions, and what was there originally, what you guys, the original committee who put together the plan. Some of those goals are still in here too, so it's a very big mix. So yeah, if we wanted to have a breakout session with just the commissioners to discuss all of these things and kind of tear them apart and figure out what's still real, and we can table some. We put it out there that this is, I think you mentioned it before the meeting started, that this is every 10 years we were going to update this, because it is a big lift. We have a lot in here. If there are things that we would like to table, I suggest making that list and getting into the record, that maybe in 5 years we revisit that, and slowly, because it's a living document, that we build more stuff in as we get tasks taken off. Okay, do we need a motion then to set up a special meeting with all the commissioners, or no?
Probably.
Roberts would probably like that, so.
Well, I guess we should have, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think when we did it last time, we just scheduled like a full meeting. It was fully posted. Anybody could come, but it was like, this is an hour we're gonna brainstorm, or we're gonna look at strategic plan,
Okay.
what we are willing to do. And I'm not sure if I remember this correctly, but it might have been before we had staff, when we were just first forming, or before we had more regular staff. And so it really fell on the backs of the commissioners, of what were the commissioners willing to do.
Oh, yeah, it's just the two originals.
Yeah, so I'm asking you, if
she's
you
looking at
remember.
me.
Okay.
But I mean, now we have,
staff.
We have
Let's
staff.
ask the staff
And-
what their opinion is.
and so that's the question is, what, does it really matter anymore what we're willing to volunteer our time and effort and focus commitment to? Or do we make a plan that's for the public? Because I don't know. And I mean, if nobody wants to have a brainstorming meeting, then we shouldn't have one. It's just a suggestion.
As far, I'm sorry, I don't think I'm quite understanding. You want to go through this as a committee, correct? To decide what we are willing to do?
I mean, if somebody has different ideas too. I mean, that would be or if there are things on here that, like last time, from experience, no one was willing to get involved with.
Right.
And so then, how would it get done? And so if we put it on our task list as, here's a goal and a priority for us, but nobody really wanted to do it, then what kind of a task list is it? So I'm just asking this is the first time I've seen this list, so I think it's huge and has a lot of things, and a lot of people have different interests, so it probably makes room for a lot of different people. But I just don't know if we've talked about this particular priority list as a board,
No,
as a
we have not.
commission.
But
So
Commissioner Engel, Chair Engel, excuse me.
Commissioner Saxon.
Commissioners. But isn't that actually what we're doing right now? This is the stage where we need to look at what they've got again,
yeah,
and then let it percolate, take a look at, see whether it's hitting the sort of ideas and things that we had thought it would be doing, and come in next meeting and say, I don't know that it may be something that would be more expeditiously handled in a duly noticed meeting, but we've got in front of us what the subcommittee has been working on.
yeah.
And so I think our thing now is to look at what they've been working on and see if it seems to align with what each of us individually has been thinking, and report back to them that subcommittee that I don't think this is, got the right time frame. I think this is a comment. This is our meeting where we're looking at the material. Now we can make some comments and go after we've all responded to this. before we make any,
Print it.
yeah. And
Yeah,
that's.
we're really far away from the design
Yeah.
and printing all of this. This is just to get your guys' opinion about the content right now.
But it certainly looks familiar. It looks like you've covered, millions and millions of things, and have done a good job of sorting out potential timeframes. I think that that's significant for any board that is changes in its composition to be aware, oh, this isn't something that we were ever anticipating to have fixed, have done, or whatever. So I think this is a good document to look over, and I will report back on what my opinion is, and if there's anything, I kind of think that's where we are.
Okay, Commissioner Persley?
Chair Engel, I was going to say that. This is the first I've seen, so I'd love to sit down with it and just look the whole thing through and just, like you say, come back next month or next meeting and then decide from there. Are we going to have a separate committee, a subcommittee, or
Sub.
us to get together, a special meeting or whatever, or do it at the meeting itself?
And we could reserve after we adjourn the regular meeting next month, if there's enough to warrant a meeting, we just adjourn the regular meeting and go into the details of this to hammer some of it out. Yes.
Jerry, you could just make it part of the meeting, right? Because we get through the other stuff pretty quickly. So take 7 minutes to go through the grant update and then just spend the rest of the time
Okay.
on that document.
Okay.
That way you wouldn't have to go through the
Closing and
closing and
opening.
opening and all the
Thank
other
you.
stuff that goes with
I
it.
appreciate you cutting down on the chaos of meetings. So, thank you. Commissioner Nodland?
Chair Engel, I have a question. So I think all the other pieces in here look really good, and I guess I have a question of, you said you used some other documents, like for the laws and the tax credits and the designations and things like that. Do you feel like that feels pretty complete to you for what is in North Dakota? Everything there feels good, because it looks
We think
good.
so, yeah. We kind of pulled everything in and then weeded stuff back out. So I think we've looked at everything and reviewed it. Did we catch everything? I don't know. If you guys see anything missing, let us know. But again, we're doing our best, and Lauren did a great job pulling everything in, and we did it off the backs of former commissioners too.
Yeah.
Blake and Tori and everyone else. So yeah, it was definitely a group effort, which we appreciate, not having to start from zero.
Yeah.
So, all right, any other comments, questions? Okay, then I don't even know, do we need a motion for anything? I think we're just,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think as a member of the subcommittee, that was our intention, and to begin with, was to put this together so that it could be reviewed by the staff, and we'd come back and we'd handle it. And I agree with Commissioner Zenker that we've got time that could happen within the meeting.
thanks, Ron, yeah,
normal meeting.
all right. Does the staff need a motion at all for any of this? Okay. Is there any other business that has not been discussed yet that people would like to bring up? Lauren?
Are we on the other business
Yes, we
portion
are.
of the agenda? Thank you.
Officially, we are.
Just needed to confirm that. All right, Chair Engel and Commissioners, there's a little item on there for the 250th anniversary under the other business section on your agenda. Just wanted to give you an update since this was brought up at the last meeting. Staff and Commissioners Hull and Persley met with members of the Bismarck Historical Society, as well as staff from the Bismarck Administration Department, Monday of this week to begin discussing the celebratory efforts for the 250th anniversary. A lot of that discussion revolved around potential events, activities, mainly related to potentially utilizing funding from that North Dakota 250 Community Initiatives Grant, if possible. Some of those ideas from that discussion included a story walk component, utilizing portions from the Bismarck timeline the idea was we already have that information there. We can update it as necessary to fit into that overarching 250th history of the U.S. And part of that discussion for that story walk included potentially starting it as like an additional component or a display for different events throughout the next year, and then potentially moving to those items to a permanent location such as the event center. It's just an idea. It's not finalized, but that was one of them. One of the other ideas was hosting a symposium, or I'm going to screw this word up, a Chautauqua. If anyone knows what that is, it's like a living history component. So that was an idea that was thrown out there. Another one was potentially creating educational cards, almost either like trading cards, if you would call them that, utilizing portions of the Bismarck timeline again, and reworking it as well. And that could be an option to hand out that educational material at the 4th of July event that's held at the Bowl. For that one, staff will be checking with the state just to make sure that it's an eligible expense and we can work it under an educational material item. The other option was reframing the Bismarck timeline in a sense and turning it into a short history series, utilizing Dakota Media Access potentially. That would need to be worked out, but it was another one of those options. Discussion involved identifying how the city should be involved. One idea was that instead of applying for the funds itself, the city could support other groups in the community who would be applying for grant funding and provide assistance with those associated historical narratives or information. Another idea included having the city apply for a specific project and other community organizations applying for their own, but working those in together and tying them into the various projects to make sure that they're cohesive. Next steps that were identified at that meeting from that group included having city staff reach out to other potential organizations in the community to see if any of those groups are planning anything for next year. And if so, determining if there would be a potential to tie those projects together. The Bismarck Historical Society was going to check in with their board to determine what they would like to do for this. So they would give an update on what we discussed on Monday. And then they would double check on any potential ideas for that as well. Staff is also working to reach out to various sign companies regarding that story walk display, just to see if there's different types of signs that could be potentially utilized if that were a route that we would go down for any activities for those efforts. And then staff would also look into those potential card funding options as well. The group with the city and or the Bismarck Historical Society would apply for the grant funds from the North Dakota 250 Community Initiatives Grant. That's kind of what the first priority would be for the funding. However, it would be for the next review cycle, which begins January 1st, so there's a little bit of time in between. So if the city did decide that they'd like to apply for grant funding, there would be time to bring it to this board for any review and then get city commission approval as needed. With how extensive that application requirement is for the National Endowment for the Humanities Celebrate America grant, it was discussed. However, those application requirements, with how extensive they are, applying for it may be a secondary option, and that would depend on if the funds are not available or we don't receive any funding from that state grant, or if the project's proposed budget for whatever it would be much higher than could be covered under the state. So those are just some of those high-level items that were discussed at the meeting there. Any questions?
Thanks, Lauren. That all sounds great, and I just wanted to say first that I love the idea of having something physical that people can see, especially if it mirrors what's on the timeline. A lot of people are visual, so if they see that sort of a path, and then you have a QR code or tell them where to find the information, they're probably more apt to look it up if they can see a chunk of it already and get them excited. So I like that idea, that we can reuse them too. Yes, Commissioners?
Yes, Chair Engel, I had a phone call, and Commissioner Swanson will probably know something about this as well, from Jan Webb with BAGA, also about the wanting to set up a meeting, which I have set up with her, to see if this commission would be interested in any sort of partnership in developing an exhibit at BAGA using this same pot that people are going after for the 250. And she suggested that it would be interesting to get together. This might be one of the boards also, Bismarck Historical Society, clearly, that might be interested in talking about and developing what kind of a display could be put on at BAGA using that framework. And I don't know, Commissioner Swanson, do you have any? I mean, you talked to her probably more than I did.
No, I
No?
didn't talk
Oh,
to
you
her
didn't?
I talked to her for about 2 minutes. But
I talked to her for 3, so.
What I got told was that you knew my schedule better than I did, so you knew where I was going to be. So I was available, but I don't
Yeah.
have any comments right now. I
Yeah.
don't.
So apparently she had, when she was speaking to me, there was the idea that had come to some of the people in BAGA, I'm assuming, or maybe just her, an exhibit of either artwork or photographs related to Bismarck, in, whether it's photographs of buildings, architectural details on buildings, any kind of a thing. Maybe it's people. She was looking for some way to tie art and the community in with this. So I agreed to meet with her, because then I can bring something back and see if this is something that might be something. I'm assuming from the way she spoke, it's more of the thing that they would write the grant. and we would be essentially planning an advisory to the subject material and to what would be. It sounds kind of interesting to me.
I think a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, there are many possibilities, and it's just how to conceptualize it, and that we'll know better what BAGA is thinking after I meet with them.
That's great.
So.
Commissioner Persley?
Chair Engel and Commissioners, we discussed that on Monday about who could be some of our partners that we could lend support to, and if we visited with them to say, okay, you can apply for the 10,000 and you can apply for the 10,000, and we'll do letters of recommendation and or just somehow work with you guys to get something together, so we can, more partners we could get, the better. And that was one of the things we discussed about, rather than us, the HPC, necessarily applying for the grant, but letting them apply for it and kind of partnering with as many people as we can line up.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Chair Engel, I mean, it does seem as if when one of the things that the HPC has to do is raise people's awareness and understanding of what our role is, that these things are all ways that are not necessarily spelled out as, talk with BAGA, but there are all kinds of interesting partnerships that will come along, and if one of the missions is to elevate what the role of this body is and what the role of our understanding of its history is within the community, then I think we're hitting something on that.
And right along with that, if you guys look back at the chart that we made, that last column is funding opportunities. We could easily make that funding and partnership opportunities and at least call out who we're partnering with as we do things, which will also, I would hope, raise awareness after we're doing them. But yes, point taken. I want to get the word out there. All right, any other thoughts? Yes?
I
Commissioner
have a
Schultz?
separate thought. I was wondering if the commission has ever thought about sending out letters of congratulations to people who have gotten their properties on the National Register. I'm thinking of the burn house now. Is that within the scope of what the commission
I would think so.
might do? I mean, it could go out to people when there is a district nominated too, just individually, the ones that are contributing to the district, as also sort of not only a congratulations, but a reminder that your structure is a contributing structure, and your building, congratulations, is a individually nominated and awarded building. Just a thought.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a good thought.
Yeah.
Going back, Chair, going back to Commissioner Sackerson's thing with BAGA is, I know one thing we discussed Monday was, like the signs going on permanent display or at least storage in the exhibit hall at the Civic Center is, I guess, asking BAGA what their thoughts are. Once presumably they're not on permanent display for years and years at BAGA, do they want to have them, join to replace those high-quality wax dolls that everyone loves? Just thought. Not as good. Not as good as thought.
All right. Any other thoughts? Okay, hearing none, we will adjourn. The next meeting is scheduled for October 15th, back here in the Tom Baker meeting room. Thanks, everyone.